Cruising is one of the safest and most relaxing vacations that you can take, but every year I see the same mistakes that lead to injuries, illnesses, unexpected costs, and even some of the recent headlines that you may have seen in the news. So today I'm sharing real cruise travel risks and, more importantly, the safety tips that can protect you and the ones you love. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now, whether you're cruising multiple times a year, once a year, or even once in a lifetime, there are things that every cruise passenger needs to know. And while some of these safety tips are going to seem like common sense, others may be surprising even to experienced cruisers. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention that if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. Number one, check in with teens and young adults. Now, I don't think that this is talked about enough, but the reality is a lot of these headline news stories that are sometimes tragedies involve this grouping of people. And when we go on a cruise, I think that we just, as parents or as grandparents, we have to take the same type of precautions that we would if we were at home or even in a big city. Now, what are some things that you can do? Well, if you do have teens and they're staying in a different cabin, you can have them in an adjoining cabin. Many cruise ships do have this, or you can have them in a cabin that's right across the hall or right next door. Another thing that I think is always a good idea is to have check-in times. Now, a lot of families, what they'll do is they'll meet up every evening for dinner. That's something great. But a quick text in the morning time or a quick text good night is also a good time to check in and just make sure that everything is as it's supposed to be. Now, later on in the video, I am going to share a cabin safety tip that many people do overlook. Number two, port safety awareness. Now, most issues don't actually happen on the ship. They happen in cruise ports of call. Now, I am talking about petty theft, injuries, and even missing the ship. Now, it's a good idea while in cruise ports of call to be aware of your surroundings, to stay in tourist areas, to avoid wearing flashy or expensive jewelry, and to confirm pricing before getting into any licensed taxi. Don't fall off the dock while in port. Now, of course, this is very, very rare, but honestly, every couple of years, we hear of an incident happening where somebody does actually go over the side of the dock. Now, just to let you know, there are actually like lines. Usually it's a red or yellow line, and you're not supposed to pass that. So you should walk within that sort of space. Now, if you are with young children, obviously you can hold their hands, you can have them in a stroller. If you have anybody in a wheelchair, just make sure that you are holding onto that or using the brakes. And recently, a cruise passenger heading to the gangway actually fell in between the dock and the cruise ship. Theft on board and cabin safety. Now, theft is pretty rare on cruise ships, but we do occasionally hear of some stories. So there are some things that you can do. Firstly, use the in-cabin safe. Now, your cruise cabin attendant, to my knowledge, is not able to open that. They would actually need a supervisor to be with them to do that. So that is not something that you need to be concerned about. The other thing is there are cameras everywhere on a cruise, but you still want to use your in-cabin safe to put your passport and any valuables and cash. Now, there are some people who say that they even like to keep their prescription medications in their safe. Digital scams and online safety. Now, digital scams are becoming an increasing risk for cruise travelers, and the tactics that scammers are using are getting more convincing every year. We've seen scammers impersonate cruise lines and call guests before they're sailing with claims about outstanding fees or reservation issues asking for payment. There are also fake upgrade offers and phishing sites that appear as ads or top search results when you're looking up drink packages, check-in details, or last-minute excursions. And then there are the open Wi-Fi networks in ports or in airports. Not all of them are real or secure or actually run by the business they're named after. And connecting without thinking about it can expose your device or your passwords without you realizing it. This is why having a secure connection when you travel is really important, and it's where NordVPN, the sponsor of today's video, really helps. When you're moving through airports or walking around in port, you never really know how safe the Wi-Fi network is. And that's where NordVPN makes a huge difference. NordVPN encrypts your internet traffic, basically putting everything you do online into a private, protected tunnel. So even if you connect to a sketchy Wi-Fi network in port or at an airport, scammers can't intercept your information. They can't see what you're doing or grab your password. Their Threat Protection Pro feature also helps block fake websites, phishing links, and malicious ads, the kind that look like real travel deals or excursion pages, but are actually designed to steal your information. So whether you're checking something quickly on your phone while in port, booking a rideshare at the airport, or even searching for a last-minute shore excursion, NordVPN adds an extra layer of protection in situations where most people don't realize they're vulnerable. Now, NordVPN does have an amazing offer for our viewers. You can get 4 months free with a 2-year plan at nordvpn.com/lifewellcruised. And it's risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee. Now, I'll leave my exclusive link down below in the description of this video, as well as a pinned comment. Solo cruise smarts. Now, solo cruising is amazing. It's actually a growing trend. But there are some basic things that you could do just to make sure that you are as safe as possible. Now, some of those things include having a buddy that's on board. Now, I know what you're thinking. If I'm solo, how am I going to get a buddy? Well, there are actually some solo meetups on many cruise ships. So you can meet somebody else. And if you are leaving the cruise ship for the day, either take an excursion that is sponsored by the cruise ship or a reputable third-party vendor, or consider, if you are walking around on your own, to walk around with a new friend instead. Now, in addition, it's a good idea to share your itinerary with friends or family back home. Balcony door safety. Now, always make sure that your balcony door is closed and locked. Now, in a minute, I'm going to talk about people that do have children because there is an extra precaution that you can take. But for the rest of us, it is a good idea to keep your door locked for 2 reasons. One of them is because when your door is locked, that is how your AC works. So when your door is not locked, your air conditioning may not be working. So you want to make sure it is locked and sealed. Now, for the other reason, it is actually for safety and security. Now, there are different people that can have access to your balcony. Typically, it is crew that can go from one cabin to the other. There are actually dividers between the balconies, but you also want to make sure that even for yourself, that even though this is really not a high risk, you want to make sure that nobody has access to your cabin through that balcony door. Now, if you have children, something that you'll want to look for is the child safe lock. Now, most of the time you're going to find this child safe lock at the very top of your balcony door. Now, it is a good idea to use this anytime that you are in your cabin. Even if you're supervising your children, maybe you take a nap for a few minutes, maybe you go to the washroom, you want to make sure that you use that child safe lock so that everybody is safe and secure. Now, speaking of kids, this is a biggie. Never let your kids climb on any of the furniture on the balcony. Never let them climb on any railings, and never let them climb on furniture in general and prop them up towards the railing. Now, beyond that, it's really important to watch your children when they're around the pool area. Now, I think that this is something I think a lot of people realize, but yet every time we're on a cruise, we do see some children that are in the pool and they do look quite young. And sometimes we are not seeing any parents that are sitting along the edge of the pool and are watching them. And you don't want to be far away when your kids are in the pool. Even if there's a lifeguard there, parents do need to supervise. Kids clubs and security. Now, something really good for parents to be aware of is that cruise ships actually do take the security of children and the rules very seriously when it comes to the children's programming. Now, this includes even the fact that if you have young children that are going to the kids club, not anybody is allowed to just sign them out. So you actually are going to have to register at the kids club. You're going to have to give your information, and usually you're going to have to even show photo ID to make sure that you or whoever else you say is authorized to pick up your children can do so. Respect the deck closures. Now, this doesn't happen often, but if your cruise ship is going through rougher weather, rougher seas, or even just is experiencing a lot of wind, it is possible that the cruise ship security will actually close off the decks. So you should never go walking up on the top deck or even the promenade deck when those warning signs are there. This just isn't safe. slips, trips, and falls. Now, one of the most common cause of injuries is actually just plain slipping and falling. So when it comes to the pool deck, of course, it can be wet. Even in the buffets, you want to make sure that you do have shoes with a good grip, that of course you're always wearing a flip-flop or a water shoe. And even when you're off the ship, you want to watch out because sometimes there can be uneven pavement or walkways or trails that may have branches that you can trip over. Drink moderation and looking out for one another. A large number of cruise mishaps involve alcohol, things like falls, arguments, missed ships, and even risky decisions. So it's important to pace yourself, stay hydrated, and look out for the other people that you are sailing with. If you're cruising with a friend, never let them wander off alone after having a few drinks. And this ties directly to an overboard point later that you'll want to hear. Illness prevention. Now, we often hear about things like norovirus and other respiratory bugs on cruise ships. And this is not because cruise ships actually cause these illnesses, but we are all cruising in closed spaces and this can help it spread. But there are some things that you can do. So first, make sure that you are washing your hands often, especially if you are heading in to eat. And you can use the hand sanitizers as well. Now, something that I like to do is bring some Lysol or other wipes with me, and I actually wipe down my entire cabin on day one. And a lot of us, when we're on a cruise, we try to do everything. So make sure that you actually do get some rest and stay hydrated. And the next tip is something that many cruisers don't think about until it's too late. Cruise ship medical teams are pretty good, but this is not a free service. It's really important to make sure that you have adequate medical travel insurance before you go on your cruise. And you really do want to check on the details of exactly what your policy entails. Now, in some cases, some cruisers have found out once they've been on a cruise that their policy had a limited amount for their medical interventions, or that their policy didn't include air evacuation if necessary. And something that a lot of people don't think about is the fact that most of the time when you're on a cruise, you may actually have to pay or arrange payment for any medical services that you've had claim to get reimbursed from your travel insurance later. All right, we've got to talk about people going overboard. Now, this is actually very rare when you consider how many people are cruising, but of course it makes the headlines and it's a tragedy when anything like this happens. Now, there are usually two reasons for this happening, and this is my opinion, but it's also something that has been reported quite frequently. So unfortunately, one of the reasons that people sometimes do go overboard is actually because they are intentionally doing that. So that is a very, very sad situation. They are not accidentally going overboard. But the other reason is sometimes actually mishaps that do sometimes seem to coincide with alcohol consumption. Now, of course, it's not that the alcohol makes them do it or that the railings are too low, but it can be that people are putting themselves in riskier situations than they normally would have without it. And of course, this should go without saying, but it is really important. Nobody should ever be climbing on railings or even sitting on railings to take a picture. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Please let me know any of your safety tips and anything that you might have ever seen on cruises. Have you ever seen anybody sit up on a railing or do anything dangerous? Please let me know down in the comments below. I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Bye for now and happy cruising.